Hi everyone, it's me, Brenda. So today we will be cooking a bolognese sauce. Basically it's a spaghetti sauce. It's from the region of Bologna, Italy. And traditionally speaking, a bolognese sauce, it's typically thicker than a regular spaghetti sauce, usually extremely meat-based, but we do not eat animals on this channel, so let me show you how to make a delicious plant-based bolognese. Some of the ingredients that we will be using, I'll show that for you right now, so maybe you can write it down. It starts off with tomato sauce. This is strained tomatoes. So I'm gonna be using this whole container, so this is 680 millimeters. And yeah, so you can use crushed tomatoes, whatever tomato sauce that you buy will work. And we will need some tomato paste. I always buy the tomato paste in these tubes, and the reason for that is that it keeps better in the fridge, and also I don't use this whole thing in one sitting, obviously, so after I'm done squeezing it, I put it in the fridge, and throughout the week I can use it. And typically with those little cans that you buy of tomato paste, you don't really want to just let that sit in the fridge, so I recommend the tubes. And vino. We will be using wine in this sauce. I love using wine in my sauces. If you don't partake in alcohol, you can omit this. Just add more tomato sauce. Can't believe I'm letting you in on my secret, but the secret to my bolognese sauce is balsamic vinegar. And get a good balsamic vinegar. Not gonna use a lot. And the veggies we'll be using today, this is a veggie-based bolognese. You can use fake meats if you want, like the Gardein ground. You can use Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger meat. You can use the lentils. I am keeping it as clean as possible, so I am using vegetables. Starting off with an onion, a green pepper, a carrot. This makes your sauce a little bit sweet. And this might be controversial, a lot of mushrooms. We love mushrooms here. So if you do not like mushrooms, again, you can omit this, maybe add more green pepper, completely up to you. So this is the base of the sauce. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna chop that up. You're gonna join me, and I haven't chopped up the onions, green pepper, and mushrooms, and I put it in this bowl. Let me go show you. Oh, it's set up over here. So the onions, the green pepper, and the mushrooms, I tried to cut them as consistent as possible so that they're all the same size, so that when you're eating the sauce, there's not like a bigger chunk of a mushroom, a bigger chunk of an onion kind of thing. And also I have OCD, so that's why I do that. So my little trick here that I like to do, because I like to keep things, you know, kind of organized and clean. So when I'm chopping, I like to have a bowl that I add all of my chopped vegetables into, and then a scrap bowl. So this is all the peeling and the stuff that you don't use, and I later put that into the compost. And right now, so I'm just chopping up the carrot. And again, the reason why I'm adding a carrot to this sauce, it's for that sweet component, because when you are using anything tomato based, what happens is that there's a lot of acid in tomato. And adding a little sweet component like this balances it out. But also, while it's cooking, I am gonna add a little bit more sweetness to it. Usually you can use cane sugar here, or I use agave, so it's more like on the healthier side, I suppose. And here we go. These are all the veggies, and we're ready to make a sauce. So about a tablespoon of oil. As always, I use grapeseed oil. So that's what's in here, and it's fairly hot. Now it's time to add your vegetable mix. So in here you have the vegetables. Give that a stir. I'm just making sure that everything is coated by the oil so it gets a good crisp. Oops. Okay, so this is when I'm gonna add some salt, using Himalayan salt. I'm gonna add some garlic. You can add fresh garlic if you want. And the amounts here is really up to you. I love garlic, as you can tell. And you can put the fresh garlic in. Pepper, you can put as little or as much as you want. The pepper. Give it another quick stir. So because this is a bolognese and not your typical, you know, like tomato sauce, I'm not going to put any bay leaves or basil or nothing. Like, I'm not going to put anything but what you just saw. I'm gonna let this cook for about 5 minutes on high, just so that it cooks at least halfway through before you put all of the wet components in here. So in case you're wondering why you have to cook this first before putting the sauce in, is because there's onions and mushrooms in here, and mushrooms are about 90% water, and onions is also a pretty high ratio of mostly just water. You see all of this liquid here at the bottom? I want that to be almost all evaporated, so that's why you want to cook this on fairly high to just get, you know, most of the moisture out of here before you add your tomato sauce and your wine and all that other good stuff. Okay, so now that all the liquid is, as you can tell, is all cooked out, I'm gonna leave it on high for right now. The first thing you're gonna add is your wine. If you're not putting wine on this in this bolognese, you can go ahead and skip this step. I'm gonna add the vino. I'm gonna add about that much. Oh my God, Brenda, that's a lot. Yes, I know. But I'm gonna cook this out, so it's gonna reduce quite a lot. So I would say that that was like almost half of the bottle, so you can do what you want with that, maybe 1 cup. See? So now I'm gonna let this simmer on high for about 5 minutes. So as I'm stirring this, it just occurred to me that some of you might be wondering if you can feed this to your children because there is wine. Yes, you can, because when you're cooking it, what is actually happening is that you're evaporating the alcohol. So there will be no alcohol left in this, but that delicious wine flavor stays behind. So yes, please feed this to your children so they can develop that fancy palate. And yeah, so, and again, if you don't want to put wine in here because you don't partake in alcohol, do you, boo? You can definitely omit it. A lot of the wine has been cooked off. So this is basically delicious concentrated wine flavors. And it is now time to add your, so lower this at this point so when you add all the other stuff it doesn't, you know, toot all over you. Okay, so this part I am going to add the tomato paste. So because I don't measure, I will show you how much I'm going to be putting so you can decide for yourself. I'll be putting that much because this is concentrated tomato flavors. The more the merrier, but it's also bitter, so don't forget about that. That's why we add a sweet component to the sauce. Let that cook off for a minute. Okay, so the next step is your tomato sauce, and again I'm using this strained tomatoes. Put that, the whole thing. And yes, I will be putting water in here and shaking it and putting it here because I am old school like that. Put that and do this. See how thick it is? That's what a bolognese is. It's gonna be so good. So that's been added. And here I'm gonna add this again. This to me is my secret recipe. This is what makes my sauce taste different than most people's sauce, is this balsamic vinegar. You don't have to add a lot. Again, just for measure so you can see how much I'm putting. I'm putting that much in. So that was probably what? 2 tablespoons, I would say. Put that in. And now for the sweet component, if you don't have agave, you can put raw cane sugar, you can put sugar in here. Try to keep it like either a white cane sugar just because if you put brown sugar in here, the molasses might mess up the flavor profile. So, and not a lot, because I don't want this to be a sweet sauce. So just like that much. And the reason again I'm putting that is to balance out the acid of the tomatoes and also the balsamic and the wine, right? So now what you're gonna do, that's how good that looks. So now what you do is you put it on low medium. So if you have numbers, I don't, but I would say it's about a 4. You cover it, and this is gonna cook for at least 2 hours, I would say, but make sure you keep an eye on it and stir it just so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And when I come in an hour to stir it, I will show you what I do next. Okay, so while your bolognese is cooking, you have time to make something that I personally love. It's delicious and it's easy. It is vegan Parmesan that you can sprinkle on top of your pasta sauce once it's ready. And this has 4 ingredients. Are you guys ready how easy this is? So in a cup, you have equal parts raw unsalted cashews and half a cup of nutritional yeast. Add that to your food processor. Garlic powder. Do not use regular garlic on here, because once you put this in here, it would be a wet component and it would just make clumps. So use a garlic powder. I would say that's a tablespoon. And of course, a pinch of salt. And I have to show you this. So this is nutritional yeast. So to those of you either new to the plant-based diet or you're just testing new recipes, which thank you, I would definitely recommend that this should be in your pantry. I use this almost every day. This is really good on popcorn. I put this in a lot of my sauces, scrambled tofu. Yeah, and this is actually B12, and we all need B12, so highly recommend this. So now what you do is in your food processor, if you do not have a food processor like this, go ahead and use your blender. It's gonna work as well. And you give this a rough chop. I'm gonna spare you the noise. This is the consistency that you want. Look how good this looks. And it's 4 ingredients, and it does taste cheesy. Crazy, eh? And you can store this in a mason jar or any container. You don't have to put it in the fridge, just leave it out. And for a couple weeks. So, and this will make your children eat almost everything. Put this on veggies. You're welcome. Okay, so it's been about an hour, a little bit more. As you can tell by the line here, it has reduced quite significantly, and it's also much richer. This is the stage that you're gonna taste it. I did. Just to see if it needs anything, a little bit more sweetness or salt. Mine didn't, but always checked halfway through just to make sure. And yeah, so let it simmer for an additional 1 hour and your sauce will be ready. Okay, so when your bolognese is about 20 minutes from being ready, it's time to cook your pasta. Today I will be using a chickpea pasta. It is gluten-free. It has more protein in it, and I personally love gluten-free pastas or anything. And so we're gonna cook this, and then we are going to plate, and then we're gonna eat. Your girl is hungry. Okay, so I am now gonna plate my pasta and bolognese. So my pasta has been cooked and rinsed, and I'm gonna use some tongs. Who doesn't do this? Anyway, okay, so I'm gonna take my spaghetti like so. I'm gonna, oh, I just made a mess. Anyway, so you take the spaghetti, you roll it. It's pretty simple stuff. There you go, you make a nest with it. Doesn't have to be schmancy schmancy. And then you take your bolognese sauce, you scoop it in the middle. It's very, very hot. And then our homemade vegan Parmesan, sprinkle that on top. And then you eat. I can't wait to eat this. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you make this, tag me in it, and bon appétit!